In the previous video, we talked about what good HTML structure for SEO looked like. In this video, we're going to start implementing some of those ideas into our RapidWeaver project. Now, we're not going to have time to cover all of the pages on our site, so we're only going to focus on the home page in this lesson. However, we will update all of the pages throughout the rest of this series. So to get started, let's use RapidWeaver's live external preview by going to the File menu and choosing Preview Page in Safari. This will open up your site using a local web browser inside of Safari. So to get started, let's have a refresh of what our HTML structure looks like. So go to the Develop menu and choose Disable Styles. And if you remember from the previous lesson, it's not too bad. We have our site title, some navigation, and then we have the site title again and the slogan. So we can definitely improve this area here. Then we have our main content area with a title, an image, some supporting text, and a few links. Again, we could definitely improve on this, and we'll look at how we do that. Then we have the sidebar content here with our logo again and some supporting text. Then we have the footer area where we just have a copyright notice and an email link. So let's go back up and just enable the styles. And to start with, what we're going to do is focus on how we could improve the banner or the header area of our site here. Because currently what we're doing is duplicating ourselves. We're saying Unbelievable Coffee, and then again we're saying Unbelievable Coffee Shop. What we'd want to do here is really have our business name or a nice description of our site in the title area here. And then we would want some more keywords and some more description about the page content inside of the slogan area here. Now, the easiest way to customize this text is to just use RapidWeaver's built-in slogan feature. So if you go back to RapidWeaver and you go to the general settings, you'll see that that slogan text can be updated here. So let's change that to the best coffee in Brighton. Now when we go back to Safari, you'll see the page automatically update and have our new slogan applied here. Now that's obviously going to read better because we have our business name and then we have a description of what we're doing. One thing to note is that the slogan is site-wide, so all of your pages will be updated with that slogan text. This might be okay for your site, and it's going to depend on the theme that you're using. However, I think we can do a lot better. We could have the same slogan perhaps, we can use the best coffee in Brighton, but I think it'd be good if we had some supporting text and perhaps link off to our blog articles or some more relevant content, some more content on our website. Not only as some useful information for visitors, but also for search engine bots so that they can build up a picture that this is what our site is all about. Here's some text about what we do, some supporting text basically, and then some links off to some supporting content or links off to other pages on our site. So to customize the banner area here, we're going to be using something called extra content. Now, extra content is not a built-in feature of RapidWeaver. It's something that has been thought up by the RapidWeaver community. And for those of you that aren't aware of extra content, what it allows you to do is have more advanced control over the HTML placed in predefined areas of each theme. One thing to note is that not all themes support extra content areas, and you'll need to check with each theme developer as to where the extra content areas are available inside of that theme. I'm using the Voyager Pro theme from Elixir Graphics, and I know that it supports 4 different extra content areas. One of those is inside the banner area here. So with that being said, let's have a look at how we can customize the banner area with an extra content area. So let's go to RapidWeaver, and if we go to the edit mode, and the first way I'm going to show you how to add an extra content area is by using the extra content stack. Now you'll need to download and install this first, and then once you have done, you can search for extra content and you can just drag that stack onto your page. So what this does is allow you to add any type of stacks content into the predefined extra content areas. Now, as I say, please refer to the theme developers documentation as to how many and if they support extra content areas. But as I say, for the Voyager Pro theme that I'm using, I know that the extra content area number is 1 for the banner area. So let's just go and drop in a couple of stacks so that I can show you how this works. So let's start with by adding a header and perhaps some paragraph text. Okay, and if we go back to Safari and preview that, you'll see here that we have our important headline and our paragraph text applied there. So it's as simple as that to add an extra content area to the theme. And also what I want to get across is the way that I'm editing my RapidWeaver site is very likely going to be different to the way that you edit your project. It's going to depend on the theme, it's going to depend on your content layout. The idea of this video is to give you the basic principles of how you should be structuring your page. As I say, I'm using extra content and stacks for a lot of on my site. You might be using a plain HTML page or a styled text page, it doesn't matter. The main thing is that you have the correct HTML structure for your site. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is go back to RapidWeaver and modify this content. So I won't make you watch me editing the content here. I'll pause now and I'll just jump back into the video once I've added the header content. Okay, so I've updated the text here and I've also changed the header to an H2, so it's the page subtitle. And then I've just added some supporting text and a link to find out more. So let's go to Safari and preview how that looks. So I think you'll agree this reads a lot better. We've got unbelievable coffee and we do the best coffee in Brighton. Then we explain why we do that, how we do that, and then we have a link to find out more. And that goes off to our blog. This text could definitely be better, and if you remember from the previous video I talked about having some keywords inside of the links. So here we could probably say learn about coffee or learn how to serve amazing coffee, something like that. Basically having a description of the page that you're sending the visitor to is going to allow the search engine bots to build up a picture of what that page content is expected to be. And that's going to help you out with your SEO rankings. So before we go any further, let's have a look at how the page looks like without the styles applied. So go to develop and disable styles again. And here we can see our header area is unchanged. We have our site title and some navigation. And then we have the area here that we've modified. So we have the site logo again, then we have our title, and here we've got a bit of duplication. So we've got the best coffee in Brighton twice. Now the reason that's happening is because we haven't turned off the slogan inside of the general settings in RapidWeaver. So let's go and do that now. So go to RapidWeaver, go to the general settings and just uncheck the slogan box here. Now when we go back to Safari, that slogan will be removed. And the reason you want to do that is obviously we're using an extra content area, so we're just going to use the content that we specify there rather than the global slogan. Anyway, you can probably agree that this is reading a lot better. We have unbelievable coffee, then we have the best coffee in Brighton, the text and the link. So that's pretty good. In the next video we'll look at customizing the keywords and tweaking this a little bit further, but let's move on now to the main content area. So currently we just have a page title of welcome, then we have an image and then some text and 4 links. So this is a pretty common website structure that I see, and it can definitely be improved upon with regards to SEO. We want to use the title here to describe the page content and use some keywords that we want to be found for. Then inside the image, that's perfectly fine to have an image here. However, we want to be making sure that we are using the alt tag to describe the content that is inside that image. Next, having some supporting text, again that's perfectly fine. Here you might want to give your visitors some important information about your business, or just describe again what your business is all about and what this page is all about, and just talk about your business area, again trying to use some keywords in a natural way. Next we have these 4 links, and I think if you remember from the previous lesson I talked about dividing up each content area using subheadings, and I think this is a perfect example. We could be having some subheadings and supporting text about each one of these links. So for example, we could be, for the blog section here, we could say learn more about coffee, then have some text about what we write about on our blog page, and then have a link to go to our blog, rather than just having a standard blog link. It doesn't really build up a picture of what's on that page. It doesn't tell the user what's going to be on there, what they can learn. And all these types of things are important to build up a picture for not only your visitors but also search engine bots as to the content on your site and what visitors can learn and read about. So let's go and focus on the content area before we move to the sidebar and the footer area here. So go back to RapidWeaver. And for me, I am using stacks for most of my pages, and I'm actually using partials. As I said earlier, the way that I'm editing this content doesn't really matter. You just need to take the principles of the structure that I'm creating here and apply that to as I say, an HTML page or a styled text page. It all depends on how you're using RapidWeaver, but just take the principles of the layout and the structure of the page and apply those to the way that you're editing. So let's start with the page title here. Currently we just say welcome, and I think what we should be doing is using some keywords to describe the content on this page and what our site is all about. So we could say something like, we serve amazing coffee in Brighton. And what we're doing here is reinforcing what we've already said above this content in the banner area and the site title. And that is not only saying it in a natural way, but we're also getting some more keywords into the content area of our site. So coffee and Brighton, amazing, best, these are all types of keywords that we might want to be found for. And as I say, try and do this in a natural way. Don't do it in a spammy way by trying to get as many keywords into the title as possible. Okay, next up we want to make sure that we're setting an alt tag for our images. So in Stacks you need to double click the image to be able to add a file name and alt tag here. And what I'm going to do is actually give this a descriptive file name as well, because that's going to help in Google image searches. So let's just call this file amazing coffee being served at Unbelievable Coffee, or just amazing coffee being served. That's probably fine. And then in the alt tag we need to describe the content that is actually inside of this image. And here we could actually say amazing coffee being served in Unbelievable Coffee Brighton, something like that. Okay, and that's all we need to do for the image, so I'll click the done button there. And then next, what we want to do is split up these 4 links into some more subsections and provide a little bit more information about each area of our site. So to do that, I'm going to add a heading. So here I can just search for header and drag one of those onto the page. And then I'm just going to duplicate this text. And what we probably want to do is remove these links from here, and then we can have some supporting text and then just one of these links in each section. So what I'm going to do is create all these sections now, but I won't make you watch, so I'll pause the video now and come back once I've done that. Okay, so what I've done here is created a subheading for each of these links. So the first one we have is Learn About Coffee, and that's for our blog. And you'll notice that I've used some descriptive text for the link, and I've done the same for each one of the 4 links. So here we have the best coffee from around the world. So this is for our coffee page, and we talk about where we source our coffee beans from. And then again we have the cafe page, or the location. So I've said our coffee shop name in Brighton, again just describing where that link is going to go to. And finally the reviews page, I've just said what our customers think. Now obviously I'm not going to be writing out the supporting copy here. This is just some default template text. What you would obviously do is use this paragraph to describe or to give more information about what each section of your website is all about. And again, just to reiterate, this is so that visitors and search engine bots can build up a picture of the type of content that is going to be on your site, and more specifically the type of content that is for this section of your site. So here you would talk about what you write about on your blog. You'd say you can learn about how to brew amazing coffee. We teach you how to pull the perfect shot of espresso, stuff like that. Just again, just giving some more supporting text and just reiterating the type of content that they're going to find on that page. Okay, with that being said, let's go to Safari and preview how our site looks. Okay, so we have a more descriptive page title here, or page content title here. We're saying we serve amazing coffee in Brighton. We added a descriptive file name and alt tag to the image. Then we split up our content into different sections for each link, describing that section with subheaders, supporting text, and using some descriptive wording for each link as well. So I think you'll agree that this page is starting to read a lot better. There's more information on there. It's building a much better picture of the type of content that you're going to find on this website. So before we finish up this lesson, let's have a look at customizing the sidebar quickly and adding some better content into the footer area. So let's go back to RapidWeaver. And as I mentioned before, I'm using Stacks partials for most of these pages. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can edit the sidebar here and it will be updated on all the pages that are using Stacks. So let's go and update the sidebar by double clicking on here. And what I'm going to do is remove this image because I think we're duplicating it too many times throughout the site. So I'm just going to click the remove button there, and then what I'm going to do is add a subheading onto the page, and I'm actually going to unpin that content, and that will mean that we can edit that title on each individual page. And I'm going to leave it as an H3 because this isn't really a subtitle for the page, this is more of some supporting text, but we still want it to be in a H3 tag, just to say this is another section on the page. And finally, I'm going to unpin this text as well so that we can modify that on each page. Okay, so let's go back to our main home page here, and you'll see that we can now modify these titles and text in here. So what we want to do is use the sidebar area to provide some more supporting text for that page. So on the home page, I think it would be a good idea to list out a few blog posts that you've written, just to give them a push towards learning about coffee and learning more about what you do in the cafe, or learning more about your business basically. So let's add a heading of something like learn how to brew amazing coffee at home. And then what you want to do is add a list of links to blog posts that are relevant to that heading. So I'm just going to pause again now so you don't have to watch me create this content, and I'll jump back in once I've done that. Okay, so I've added links to the 3 blog posts that we currently have, and I've just used the standard RapidWeaver link sheet. What you'll want to do is add a descriptive title here. I haven't done so, but it's important that you remember to add the title attribute and use some keywords and describe what's going to be on that page. Okay, so with that being done, let's go back and have a look at how this looks in Safari. Okay, so I think we're starting to look a lot better here. We've got our main content areas with our subheadings for each section on the page. Then we have our sidebar area here that adds some supporting content for the entire site or that page. And what we're trying to do here is push them off to some more interesting content on our page. And it's also helping with search engine bots, because they're going to build up a picture that when you come to this site you can learn about brewing coffee, or you can just learn about coffee stuff. So as I say, it's all about building up that picture that this site is all about coffee, and they really know what they're talking about, and they provide the best content around coffee. So just quickly before we finish up the lesson, let's have a look at how we can customize this footer area by using an extra content area. So again, to do this, let's go back to RapidWeaver. Now previously we used an extra content stack inside of the home page. Now that's going to be page specific, so we would need to add this extra content stack to every one of our pages, or add the extra content code to each one of our pages. To add extra content areas globally, what we can do is go to the code settings and go to the body tab, and here you'll see that I have some template code already set up. But just quickly, the body tab will add code just before the closing body tag inside of every one of your pages. So this is a great way to add code to every page on your website. And in the Voyager Pro theme, it has 4 content areas. The header one we've already added by using a stack. There's the content above bar, there's the content below bar, and there's also the footer area. And that's the one we're going to add now. And I'm just going to paste in some code that I've already prepared here. Okay, and rather than going through all of this code line by line, I'm just going to go back to the browser and preview that, because it's a lot easier to see what I've actually added. Okay, and now you can see the footer area has been updated with a title, some supporting text, our business address, the opening times, and a link to some popular articles on our site. So I know we're currently duplicating a little bit of content here by having these links here and here. However, when you've got more blog articles, you could obviously link to some articles that are relevant to the page here, and then link to your most popular articles in the footer area. So that's how you can add a site-wide extra content area. And that just about does it for this lesson. But before we wrap up, let's have a look at our site with these styles applied. Okay, so just do a refresh, And I think we're looking pretty good. As you can see, site title, then we've got our descriptive slogan, some supporting text for that slogan, and a link to find out more. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at how we can tweak all of this content a little bit further throughout this series, because I think find out more is very generic. We should be saying something more descriptive, such as learn about coffee or something similar. Then let's concentrate on the content areas. Here we have a much more descriptive title. We added the alt tag to the image, so we've described what content is in that image. And then we have divided up our content area into subsections. We probably need to add a little bit of padding, so let's just go back and do that now. So here in the stacks area, we can add some margin to the bottom, perhaps something like 20 pixels to each one of these. Okay, and if we go back and preview that, that just spaces the content out a little bit better. We're not really focusing on the design in this series, but it's good just to have something that's laid out nicely. So yeah, we have the subsections here with the descriptive subtitles, the supporting text for those subtitles, and some descriptive links. Okay, and then finally in the footer area, we're looking a lot better. Previously we just had this text here. Now we've actually got a title here, we've got some sub content that describes our business again, then we have the address, we've got our opening times, and we've got links to popular articles. The footer area isn't necessarily going to give you a lot of SEO ranking. The content here is not the most important content, but what we're doing is not only concentrating on SEO bots, we're also trying to give the user the best experience possible. And by doing that, we're more likely to see those visitors link to our website if it's a nice website to use and they can find the content easily. And then we're going to start seeing some benefits where we're getting a lot more inbound links. Having said that, obviously it's important to provide a good picture of what your website is all about. So adding all of this content in the footer area is definitely not going to harm you. It's only going to be a good thing when it comes to SEO bots building up that picture of your website and the content inside of it. And just before we finish up, we obviously have our customized sidebar here with learn how to brew amazing coffee at home and links to articles that are relevant to that heading. The sidebar is perhaps a little bit sparse. We could have provided a bit more information, perhaps linked off to a couple of other pages, but I think as a starting point, this is really good. So in the next lesson, we'll continue building upon this HTML structure, but we're going to start looking at keyword researching and implementing that into our Rapid Weaver content. So I'll see you then.